part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
And welcome to another edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Thanks to our producer, Dave Emmert, making sure we get out to you in the podcatosphere. And Michael Red Guy, the Brownies, after 3 weeks, tied for first with a 2-1 record after an impressive 26-6 win at home against the Bears. And it was all about the defense. 9 sacks. Myles Garrett, 4.5 of them, a career high, a team high, franchise record-setting performance today as they manhandled that Chicago offense, and Justin Fields holding them to just 47 yards and no touchdowns. Not bad for a maligned Joe Woods defense, huh?
Wow, how about that? How things can certainly change in the NFL in 1 week, but that was as suffocating and as dominant and absolutely not letting your opponent breathe a performance that Kenny, I mean, listen, when you look at final numbers in the NFL and see an NFL team, at less than 100 yards throwing the football, less than 100 yards running the football, and what was it 8.5 or 9 sacks? What did it come out?
They ended up having 9 sacks, and Myles had half of those with 4.5 himself, which broke Andre Davis's record of 4 sacks in a game. Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, I mean, and after last week, and of course, we gave them a pass for, the situation in Kansas City because, as we said, young Mr. Mahomes and friends have the want to do that against a whole lot of folks, right? So it's not like, the Browns were absolutely torched by a quarterback that wasn't capable. But today, when they got this rookie QB making his first NFL start, you almost sensed that the Browns made it a point that they weren't going to let him in any way, shape, or form get room to breathe, get room to feel confident about himself and his offense, and let him get off at all, because they did absolutely the opposite. It was absolutely suffocating and real fun to see. I mean, you do that. Hell, you do anything remotely close to that, you win a lot of football games, period.
I looked at this performance today, and again, let's take into consideration who they were playing, a struggling Bears offense with a first-time starting quarterback and rookie Justin Fields. And I want to thank Matt Nagy for trying to make him a pocket passer today, allowing the Browns to record the 9 sacks, which ties a franchise record for most sacks in a game by the Browns. And how about this, Reg? 47 total yards by the Bears today, the lowest ever by a Browns opponent, and the Bears' 1 net passing yard are the lowest ever recorded by a Browns opponent as well. So this was a record-setting performance defensively in so many different ways, individually, team-wise, and it couldn't have come at a better time. This team had struggled through the first 2 weeks, even though we gave them a pass in Kansas City, and they needed this to gain some confidence. They needed this to, I don't want to say sort out who belongs where on the defense, but Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, his presence was felt today. Jadeveon Clowney's presence was felt today with 2 sacks. We already mentioned Miles Flash Garrett with the 4.5 sacks. He was pissed he didn't get 5, 6, or 7. He thought he should have had more today. This defense today did what they were supposed to do on third down. They got off the field, holding the Bears to 1 of 11 on third down conversions and 0 of 1 on fourth down conversions. So again, this is a struggling offense, but they did to a struggling offense what you should do to a struggling offense. And your word is apropos, perfect for the way they played today. It was suffocating as far as, their performance on the Bears defense.
Yeah, it was. And I think it's almost like the lions that got turned loose. I mean, the actual lions that roam the jungle. I don't mean the Detroit Lions, because that's a terrible mess. The lions that roam the jungle, they almost, it was like they got the sense of that, a lot of that red meat, that raw meat that was right there for their taking. And they weren't going to let that opportunity pass them by. And Kenny, they didn't. Again, they and I love the way that and we had some critical things to say about Joe Woods, but he said, "Listen, we're going to really get after Justin Fields. We are going to come after him." And a lot of times it was just with 4. There were some times when they were throwing 5, and a couple of times with 6 getting home on them. But it certainly made a young quarterback making his first start. You could see he was looking up quickly and looking around, and just almost like I gotta get out of this pocket, because this is not a place that's going to be good for me. And when a quarterback starts, dropping his eyes and taking his eyes off his receivers downfield, now you got them right where you want them, and the Browns were absolutely suffocating with that today.
Yeah, and I think as the game went on, they kept showing Andy Dalton and Nick Foles on the sidelines. I think they were both standing there saying, well, thank goodness it's not us out there, or we'd be getting the crap kicked out of us like they're doing to Justin here. Because, again, Matt Nagy, one of the strengths of Justin Fields are his legs, his mobility. And very few times did they roll him out, waggle him, get him on the edge to try and throw. And I know the Browns were rushing wide to try and keep him in the pocket, but still, you got to do something to give the kid a chance. He did nothing. He finished 6 of 20 throwing the football today, Michael, for a total of, let's see here, what was it? 80 yards, I think, is what he accumulated. But with
and a lot of that was in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but you go through the the box score with the sack yardage and everything like that. And that's how you get, instead of 47 yards, I think you get that amount of, 1 total yard, throwing the football, 1 net yard of throwing the football for Justin Fields. So I thought Matt Nagy was out-coached big time today by Kevin Stefanski. And I want to give Stefanski all the credit in the world, as well as Joe Woods. I thought Nagy played not to lose the game today. I thought Woods and Stefanski, they coached, they played with their players to win the game today. They were aggressive on offense and defense. And I go back to that first quarter, and we'll get to the offense here in a little bit, but just real quick, I loved that Stefanski went for it on fourth down. They came up short and they fell behind 3-0. But then again on fourth down, he went for it again, came up short, and stayed aggressive throughout the game, because I think he knew that their defense was going to be able to control Justin Fields and the Bears. And so coming up short on 2 4-down situations early in the game didn't deter him from being aggressive. And so I love the fact that he did that. And the offense eventually took control of the game, running and throwing the football to the tune of over 400 yards, 4 field goals from Chase the leg McLaughlin as he nailed one from
Might
57 yards.
Now, huh?
Yeah. So I love the aggressiveness on offense and defense by both coaches, Reg.
All right. I love the aggressiveness.
Okay.
On going it on the 4th and 1 twice. I abhorred the play selection.
Fair.
As I put out on the Twitter,
yes.
You've got one of the most powerful, dominant offensive lines in the National Football League. Yep. You've got the best duo of running backs. And, oh, by the way, not just are they the top duo, those two guys, I think they love Chubb and Hunt. They love to lower their pads, and they love to run inside the tackles. Yep. They are not adverse to that at all, both of them. How in the hell are you calling off play action waggles with Baker Mayfield? I'm sorry. That, to me, it's about the only thing today, but that, to me, takes them back a little bit. I know that's a coaching decision.
Right.
But I just don't. When you've got this situation with your offensive line in your running back room, what in the dominate people? Go knock them off the ball and move the sticks and then start your play sequence over again. And they did it twice.
Yeah.
Twice he did that, Alex Van Pelt, I assume. Although Stefanski calls the plays, doesn't he?
Right. Yeah. So both of them.
Well, I guess we got to put the blame onto the head coach, too.
Yeah.
I did not understand that for the life of me, Kenny. And it's upsetting. That's not who you're telling us. You've told us all we're a powerful, strong, running football team.
Right.
And then you don't on 4th and a yard and 4th and less than a yard.
Right.
And neither one of them were successful, were they?
No, he took the blame for it after the game in his post-game press conference. He said,
I didn't hear that. Did he? Good.
I've got to do a better job. Somebody asked him specifically about the 4th and 5 and 4th and 1. And he said, that's on me. I've got to do a better job in those situations. And you're right. Yeah. When as angry as Kareem Hunt was running the ball today, and Baker Mayfield touched on this in the post-game show as well. He said he had a look in his eyes that he was zoned in, focused, angry, and you could see it in him running the football. And he really was the difference in the offense today. 155 yards of total offense combined running and catching. So you're right. Whether it's Chubb or it's Hunt in that situation, you run the ball there. So I'm with you. Well said. I love that they were aggressive going for it. The play calls, very questionable when you have those two backs to pick from in that offensive line. So, go ahead.
And I promise you too, quickly. Again, and if they ran it in 4th and 1, you got stoned, you wouldn't no, I wouldn't say a damn word.
Right.
I would not say a damn word because this is what they are. If they're going to go deep into the AFC playoff picture and hopefully get to a Super Bowl, this is what's going to get them there. That's who they are. You've built your football team to be a dominant, powerful run game. You're going to have your quarterback off play action and waggle one way or another where you're going 8 to 12 yards for what? So I just hope that's I'm glad to hear you say that. I didn't hear Stefanski post game, but I hope that's the last time that we see that with this football team that is a running power offense. I hope we don't see that again.
I want to correct myself. Justin Fields, 6 of 20 for 68 yards passing, minus 67 yards on the sack. So that's how they got the 1 net yard passing today in that game. So no interceptions, no touchdowns, no fumbles, but 9 sacks. Welcome to the NFL, Justin Fields. The players are a little bit faster and stronger than you were used to running away from in college. But again, in fairness to him, that offensive line, Rhoda, they were sheep dip. They were awful, as Sindelar used to say. And his coach didn't put him in the best position to win either. So better days hopefully lie ahead for Justin Fields. But the Browns will take it at the expense of the Bears. And Reg, hopefully this is something to build off of now with that defense. I thought Greg Newsome played well till he left late in the game with a calf injury. We'll see how serious.
He did play well.
Yeah,
yes, he
that
did.
is. So
had a couple of pass breakups
Yep.
when he was, covering wideouts one-on-one. I think that he's playing very good football. And Kenny, how good is it to be able to see and JOK? This kid's a hybrid, man. I tweeted out about him. He's not real big now. I think he's only about 210, maybe 215 pounds. So he's not the biggest dude but man, I tell you, he combines all of the requisite linebacker skills. And Kenny, then he's got the strong safety capabilities as well, where you can put him in coverage and not have to worry about it. This young man, he's got a chance to be elite. He really, really does. I love watching him and what he brings to the party.
6'2", 220. So you're right on it, Reg. And his versatility in today's game where you need somebody that can cover the tight end, but also thump the running back with a tackle. He's got that combination coming out of Notre Dame. And again, how he slipped to the second round, don't know. Maybe it was the heart concerns and everything like that. But the Browns did their due diligence, moved back up, got him. And they're happy they did. And he was a factor, no question about it on defense. By far the best defensive game the Browns have played in a long time, record-setting today. And it helped them get the 26-6 win over the Chicago Bears. All right, Reg, let's get a break in right now. And when we come back, we will talk about the offense and how it started slow but picked up steam and eventually put enough points on the board to get a win. But before we get to this break, a shout out once again to our good friends at Northfieldpark. That's your home for live and simulcast racing. And don't forget, Monday, October 4th, will feature a Pigskins and Ponies contest. Register from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. for a chance to win cash at Northfieldpark. Thanks to them for jumping on board the R&R podcast. When we come back, Baker Mayfield, OBJ, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and that offense. Did they impress you as much as the defense or not? We'll discuss.
Hi, this is Maria Gincola with Mindful MMJ Ohio. Did you know that medical marijuana has been legal in Ohio since 2016? If you have one of 25 qualifying medical conditions, you can obtain your medical marijuana card today. The most common conditions are chronic pain, including migraines and back or joint pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, spinal cord disease or injury, and cancer. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more or to find out if you qualify, visit mindfulmmjohio.com and fill out the short pre-qualification form. The process of finding a physician, filling out paperwork, obtaining medical records, and scheduling an appointment seems like it would be a daunting process for most. But, lucky for you, Mindful MMJ Ohio will help you every step of the way to make the process quick and easy. In most cases, we can approve a qualified patient within 24 hours. And the visit is virtual, so you don't even have to leave home. So what are you waiting for? Visit mindfulmmjohio.com today. That's mindfulmmjohio.com. Let us help you be more mindful of your health and find a natural way to find relief from your symptoms.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Kenny Rhoda, Michael Regai with you. And Reg, we broke down that record-setting performance by the defense in the first half of this pod. Let's dive into the offense. We touched on it a little bit. Couple of drives in that first quarter, stalled on poor play calling. We agreed on that, on going for it on fourth down. But eventually the offense got going and they got a leg up on the Bears thanks to their backup place kicker, Chase McLaughlin. How about the cojones of Kevin Stefanski to send the kid out there in Cleveland Browns Stadium to try a 57-yard field goal down 3-0 at that point, and he boomed it right down the middle, Reg, the first of 4 field goals today.
Yeah, he sure did. And it's a head coach's he better know what his field goal kicker is capable of and conversely not capable of. So obviously Stefanski has a great deal of confidence and trust in McLaughlin, knows he's got the kind of leg that he could send him out there and it wasn't going to phase the kid. And you're right. I mean, he boomed that thing and unloaded it straight and true. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But, how it is with life with the kickers in the National Football League. I mean, you show like this, and I'm sorry, Cody Parkey, but you're unable to play, and you say, well, you don't lose your job because of injury. Oh, really? Not when it comes to kickers, Kenny. You know that. And it's all about confidence and trust and makes and misses. And when there's enough makes, if there's enough makes like there were, you think Stefanski's going to mess with that?
No.
No, he's not. No, of course not. So we'll see how this plays out. But, it was. You're right. It was good to see. And you like when because, you're not going to be able to every drive you make wind up in the end zone and put 6, 7 on the board. So, you got to feel good that you can get points off virtually every time you move the football well and, get inside. Hell, in this day and age today, Kenny, you get to the opponent's 35-40 and you're going out there to try the 53, 54-yard field goal and you expect to make half of them. So, good thing to see the Browns get points on the board to cap off drives.
Yeah, 14 points. So nice job, you effing kicker. 14 points from Chase McLaughlin today on 4 field goals, 2 extra points, and all the points were needed in a low-scoring game. It's 3-3, Reg, and I thought the turning point of the game was right before halftime as the Browns went 80-some yards, executed the 2-minute offense to perfection, and Baker's best throw of the day, in my opinion, to Hooper for the touchdown. And I turned and said to one of the people I was sitting at jerseys with the Browns backers, Stark County Browns, I said, ball game. That's it. Forget it, because they ain't scoring a touchdown, Chicago, with their line and the rookie quarterback. So I thought the game was over right then and there. And what a great throw and a great group of play calls there by Stefanski and the execution by the offense in the 2-minute drill.
Yeah, it really was. You got to love the balance today. I believe 418 yards a total for the Browns, right?
Yep.
215 on the ground and 203 in the air. I believe that's how it broke down. Now, you got to love that. I mean, would you like to be up at that 250 plus throwing the football? But if you're going to run it for 203, right. When you're the Browns, you happy $125 every week? That should be $125. Boom, that should be standard for the Browns to be able to run the football that significantly. So So Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt, I thought they did with the exception of the 2 we mentioned in our first segment, and going their play selection on loved going for it, just didn't like the play selection. But other than that, I thought that they had every facet of the game they wanted offensively, and I like Mayfield. When he needed to keep drives alive, he hit his favorite security blanket, Rashard Higgins, on a couple of first down throws. It was good to see the throws of over 20 yards, 2 of them today with real nice catches from Donovan Peoples-Jones, and of course getting Odell Beckham Jr. back, Kenny. Let's get it. I didn't think Odell would play that many snaps, nor did I think he would have the type of game statistically that he did, with he and Baker saying hello to one another in game competition for the first time in over a year.
I love that they used him as part of the offense and didn't try to force it to him to welcome him back, to the Browns offense. It was in the flow of the game, Michael, right? They had the one run to him for 10 yards. I think he caught, 5 for 77 yards. So it wasn't forcing the ball, in my opinion, at least. I thought they used him as part of the offense. And like you said, Baker spread it around today. Hollywood with a couple of big grabs. DPJ with a couple of big grabs. Hooper with the touchdown catch. Kareem Hunt out of the backfield. I love the way Baker managed the game today, playing with a sore left shoulder, and that took some hits today as he was sacked 5 times, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But I thought he did a great job of managing the game, not turning the football over in a low-scoring game, and then taking what the defense gave him, and when the opportunities were there, boom, he hit Hooper for the touchdown and made a couple of other nice throws, and that's what I need to see out of Baker. Don't turn it over.
That's right.
Make a couple of big throws and distribute the football to all of these, what's in the movie Three Amigos, a plethora. It is a plethora of offensive. El Guapo, the good-looking one, a plethora of offensive weapons, and he should use all of them, Rich.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I would like still, the majority of throws are going to the tight end room.
Okay.
And now you're playing without Jarvis Landry, and I'm hoping that as we go along here, hopefully OBJ can continue to stay healthy and be able to fortify this offensive package with what they do with throwing the football. I'd like to see, as we go for nothing with Anthony Schwartz today. So I don't know if he's in the doghouse or what his story is, but again, they went with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones only had 2 targets in the last 2 games, Kenny. 2.
Right. Yep.
And so today I thought, well, maybe they'll see if they can. It still was only 2 today, but 1 for 21 yards and 1 for 19 yards with real good back shoulder catches from him. As I said, Baker on those 3rd and 8, 9s and 10s, Rashard Higgins is going to be the guy that he's looking for. And of course, again, I just hope when you get Landry back, I just hope the ability to produce continues to grow. I'm not asking for, times 2 from where they're at now. I just like to see some increase with wide receiver production from Baker. And maybe that, hopefully that can happen. We'll see if Stefanski and Van Pelt are looking for the same thing as we go forward here.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at, the targets here. 14 to wide receivers, 10 to the tight ends. So still too close, right? You need to get the wide receivers involved more.
Yeah, I would. And that's not to deter anything from the Browns tight end room. I know that they got confidence in them, and Baker likes it, but yeah, I'd like that to stretch out a little bit more in the favor of the wide receivers. Yes.
But you mentioned the running game, Reg, and the number you came up with, 125. That should be minimum every game for this team. With that offensive line, with these 2 running backs. Today, they toted the football 42 times. It was for 215, a 5.1-yard average. The 1 touchdown on the 29-yard run by Kareem Hunt, 10 carries for him, 81 yards, 22 carries for Chubb, 84 yards. They mixed in, Odell Beckham Jr., and how about Baker Mayfield with the sore shoulder? He still, went out there and put his body on the line, taking a chance. 4 carries, 31 yards, and he picked up a couple of first downs too, Reg, on those runs. So I give him credit, man. He's tough one hombre, out there, as he hasn't missed a game since he took over for Tyrod Taylor in that Jets game.
No, he's going to compete, and that's what you love about him. He's got that toughness cachet about him that. Kenny, I don't ever worry about Baker. Does he make 100%, the great decisions? No quarterback does. None. So, I just know that I'll take his toughness, his competitive will and spirit, and I'm riding with that, with this young man, because he's certainly shown the last couple of years he's gotten much more accurate, with his ability now. And again, but every quarterback, once in a while, man, you trust that arm of yours. Yeah, he might take a shot into a tight window. Or Baker, no. Hey, listen, that's what quarterbacks do.
Right.
I don't ever want to take that away from my quarterback. I want them to feel that way, without question. And so, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he is tough as it gets. And Kenny, I'm to the point now, I don't worry about him at all. I know you have some reservations a little bit, but I think this kid is starting to grow exponentially with what he knows he is as a quarterback and why he knows it is going to be good and real good for this particular offense.
I'm liking what I'm seeing from the standpoint of him managing the game, because that's all he has to do. He doesn't have to be
you got to drop
Mahomes.
that game manager thing
Yeah.
on him, huh?
Hey, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl being a game manager, right?
He did.
Brad Johnson won a.
Brad Johnson won one, yeah.
They weren't, I don't think, number one overall picks, but still, with this team, that's what they need him to do. And he seems to be okay with that the ego maybe that he had in college and everything, and the planting the flag and the cocky, brash guy, there's still some of that in him. But I think he's okay because he's seeing what happens when you win football games, what it means within that locker room, what it means to the coaching staff, the front office, the city, the fans. And I think he's realizing that's the most important stat of all his statistics: win football games.
That's right.
As long as he can do that, this team right now, hey, Kansas City lost for the second time already this season to the Chargers today. The Ravens needed an NFL record-setting 66-yard field goal.
Did you see that? I was almost hit you. I was watching it, and I thought, but this guy, this Justin Tucker, he's out of his damn mind, Kenny. I mean, and I mean that in nothing but a respectful, phenomenal way. And can you, John Harbaugh, I'd love to coach that football team. Just get me down to the opposition's 40 to 45. We're going to not only bring him out there, we're going to win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to win the game.
66 yards, and it hits the crossbar.
And right in the middle of the uprights. Right down the middle from 66 yards out.
Yeah, and it bounces over.
Triple zeros on the clock.
Yeah, pretty amazing. But they needed that
and
to go to 2-1.
Remember, it wasn't a tie game. They were losing. So if they, and I thought, I'm looking, I'm like, the Detroit Lions are going to help the Browns out and put one on the Ravens here, huh? Lamar Jackson gave the Lions an opportunity by just throwing an awful pick with about 5 minutes left. And again, Justin Tucker completely bails out the Ravens, as he's done many times.
Adam Vinatieri, the greatest kicker of all time. Justin Tucker, number 2 on my list when you look at kickers.
I'm not going to argue with you.
That's no disrespect to Morton Anderson and Jan Stenerud, who are in the Hall of Fame, but those are the 2 best kickers. I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah. I'm not argue because Tucker belongs up there. Yeah.
I don't know what else he's got to do to belong up there, because I'll tell you what, he's got about 5 to 8 yards on every other kicker that's ever played. I mean, capability of connecting with games on the line from that ungodly far out. I mean, that's just
Rich, think about
incredible.
This. We just applauded Chase McLaughlin for a 57-yarder. Tucker bested him by 9 yards in a game-winning situation. So, but my point was, the Ravens, they needed that to win. The Chiefs have lost twice. I told you the Steelers stink, Rich. Well, do you believe me now? Joe Burrow, go Tigers. Joe Burrow went into Coach Luke Weesaby, Joe Burrows. He went into Pittsburgh today and beat the Steelers 24-10. Ben's old, diminishing skills with Ben Roethlisberger, a crappy Swiss cheese offensive line, and a coach who should have been fired 2 years ago. All right. They need to turn it all over and rebuild from the bottom up, because that Steelers team is on their way to a 5 or 6 win season this year, and that's it.
How about that, folks? That's a lot of negativity from the Steeler fan, Kenny Rhoda. A lot of negativity.
2-7 in their last 9 games. That's all I'm going to say, right? Going back to last year, including the playoffs.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, this
is not going well.
No,
it's not going well. No,
this is a Browns-Ravens division to win, with Cincinnati looking up and trying to figure out, where they fit in all of this. So the Browns right now, I think the Bills are playing as well as anybody. The Rams, knocked the Buccaneers from the
great
beaten
game
ranks.
today.
Yeah?
Outstanding game today. Watched every snap of it. Great.
So if you can rush with 4 like the Rams can and put pressure on Tom with 4 and drop 7, that's how you beat him. So the Browns are right there with all these teams, in my opinion. I think they are when everybody's healthy, and this is without Jarvis Landry today. So we'll see if this continues. I think it will. In fact, let's do this, Reg. Let's get a break in right now. When we come back, let's look ahead to next week. They go on the road to Kevin Stefanski's old stomping grounds, the Minnesota Vikings. We'll preview that matchup next as the R&R podcast continues.
Everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs got to eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary, and we love ball cards.
And if you love ball cards too, good news. You just found your new favorite podcast. From breaks to grading.
And from collecting to flipping, join us on the Ball Card Show.
The sports podcast for the sports collector.
And welcome back to the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast. And once again, a shout out to our brand new sponsor, MGM Northfieldpark. They're your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. MGM Northfieldpark. All right, Michael, Red Guy. Browns lose at KC, come back, win the next 2. They're now 2-1. They are tied atop the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens 2-1. The surprising Cincinnati Bengals 2-1. The Steelers 1-2. Next up for the Browns, a road game at Minnesota, where Kevin Stefanski was the offensive coordinator that helped him land the job as the Browns head coach. Your thoughts moving forward into week number 4 of this NFL season as the Browns head to Vikings country?
You know, Kenny, I was rooting for Minnesota today because I didn't want to see them at 0-3. You know how that is. An 0-3 team at home. Absolutely not only just playing for their lives, but very dangerous. So good. Minnesota got a win today. Got their first win of the year. So the Browns go in there now, and this is what we want to start seeing, Ken. I know we've seen the Browns. You know, the opener was in Kansas City, the rematch from the AFC Championship game. I want to see, 4-4 on the road. Well, it could be 9 road games now, depending on how your schedule plays out, right? But for the Browns, they've got the 9 at home this year and still the 8 in the road. I want to see the Browns. Can the Browns go 5-3 on the road? Well, that means you're going to have to go 5-2 now, to reach that mark. I'm not saying, but see, to me, this is what at least my thought, Ken, is this is when a team is starting to be really legit and a team that's figured out how to win, right? When you go on the road in the National Football League, I mean, like, look at today, for example. We were just laughing about the Baltimore Ravens trip into Ford Field in Detroit. Well, I mean, like, who's got the substantially better roster of those two teams? Right. Whose personnel is far better? Who's got the far better coaching staff? And yet the Ravens, it took them, they lost the lead, and it took them, Justin Tucker 66-yard field goal hit to be able to win it as the clock's going to triple zeros. it's tough on the road in the National Football League, Ken. And again, I want to see the point where the Browns can go into Minnesota and go get a win. Go into the teams who are 500 probably or less, and you got to win those football games on the road. I look at that as part of legitimacy about whom you are, as are you really a football team that can contend for big things. Got to be able to win road games. Now, at the very worst, you got to go 500 on the road, and then you hope you do maybe 6-2, or in this case 7-2 at home. But let's see. I think this is going to be a strong test coming up, going to the Twin Cities against the Vikings.
I think it will as well, but as I look at what the Browns have to offer on paper, what I saw today defensively, even though it was the Bears, I'm hopeful that this defense is starting to come together just a little bit. It's not close to where I think it will be at peak performance, but it's starting to come together a little bit. Myles Garrett, I guess, called himself out and the defense out this week in practice.
Was that what he was doing?
Showing some leadership, supposedly, as he was taking his shirt off and doing all the interviews. Hey, man, if I looked like him, I wouldn't ever wear a shirt, Reg. I'd walk around topless everywhere I went, man. If I had a body looking like him, man.
A lot of dudes said that this week. Like a lot of guys. I look like Garrett, man. I'd never wear a shirt. So,
hell no would I wear a shirt. Yoked up like that, negative body fat, my goodness gracious. So I liked what I saw there. Now they're 0-1 on the road. They lost last year. So they're 0-2 in their last 2 road games, right?
That's right.
They did win at Pittsburgh last year, remember? So that was nice. But still, so like you said, you gotta prove to me you can do it on the road.
There you go.
Defense travels, Reg, right? Offense, maybe not as much because of the crowd noise and everything, but defense should travel if you've got a good defense. And so we're going to see next week if this was just because they were playing a horrific Bears O-line with a rookie quarterback, or if this defense is starting to come around a little bit.
Yeah, and Kenny, I want to believe that it is, that the defense is starting to put all the pieces and parts together and understanding, the Joe Wood system. That having been said, you want to know one of the individual guys that absolutely terrorizes me the most in the national, Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
He is an outstanding running back, Kenny. I mean, he's got it all. He can go for $175 and a couple of touchdowns, boom, just like that. And you say, well, don't even know what's happening to you. He's that good. So, I'm sure the Browns are understanding about that, because you can't let Dalvin Cook start going crazy, because that's then when Kirk Cousins starts to feel himself a little bit. And Justin Jefferson, right? They seem to then play better.
Right.
So it's going to be a test to be able to get Dalvin Cook under control. I don't know what he did individually today.
Well, that's just it, Reg. He didn't play today. He
didn't
injured.
go today.
No, he didn't go at all.
Okay.
As Alexander Madison, it says here, stepped in for the injured Cook and racked up 171 total yards for the Vikings as they got the win over Seattle. So I don't know the severity of Cook's injury and whether or not he will be good to go. I'm trying to read through a story here real quick to see if he'll be available next week or not. If not, then you're right. With him out, even though this dude, what's his name again here? This dude that
Madison, his backup,
ran for a bunch of yards. If the Browns
that could be huge though. If Cook's not in the lineup, that's huge. He's to me is one of the unheralded, but he's one of the best running backs of the game,
without question,
bar none.
Without question, he's got an ankle injury, inactive for Sunday's game against the Seahawks. So we'll have to wait and see if he's going to be available for the Browns game next week. If not, big advantage for the Browns offense. I've never been a Kirk Cousins fan. You like that? I just never. Hey, dude got paid. God bless him.
He did.
More power to him.
He's not an elite quarterback. You know, he had those couple of good years with the then Washington Redskins, right? Now the Washington football team. But he had a couple of good years, took them to playoffs, and then things started to come back more toward the mean for Kirk Cousins. But, certainly not elite, but capable. And again, if you got Dalvin Cook, that's going to go bust up some defense for $160 to 200 yards on the ground. Right. We know, think about how easier that makes a quarterback's job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Without question. So, and Stefanski going back there, I've got to believe that whenever you go back somewhere, whether it's a team who cut you or a team you left to get paid to go as a player, right? You always want to play well against your former team. I don't know if it's exactly the same for the coach having those thoughts, but I guarantee you this, the players all will talk about it this week saying, hey, we got to get coach a win in his old stomping grounds. We got to make sure we go back there where he used to be the O coordinator. Now he's our guy. He's our head coach. We got to get him a win in his old building. I think that'll be a little bit of a motivating factor for the Browns players if they're looking for one for this week's game on the road.
Hope so, because, again, it should be. It shows that you, meaning the Browns in this case, have a great deal of confidence and belief in Stefanski as their leader and the coaching staff. And, they want to make sure he doesn't go back there and, they lay an egg and come up with a loss. So I think you're on it with that. Let's hope that's a lot of part of the conversation for the Browns players this week. Sure.
Yeah, so it should be an interesting game. 1:00 kickoff next Sunday in Minnesota against the Vikings for a chance to go 3-1 on this young NFL season for the Cleveland Browns. Reg, final thoughts before we get out of here on this edition of the R&R podcast?
Well, if you remember, when we did this 3 weeks ago after the opening day loss to Kansas City, we were kind of saying, you can't get too far ahead of yourself. But, Kenny, I think when you're looking to go where the Browns are, it was not to say, okay, you got to win the Houston-Chicago home games, and you got to go on the road and beat Minnesota, and then you're 3-1, and you're right back to where you want to be and need to be. So, obviously I'm sure that first time going on the road since the Kansas City opener, I'm sure we're going to see a premium effort and from the Browns. And to be honest with you, I'd be real surprised if they didn't come out of there victorious. Real surprised.
Real quick, a look at the AFC. Las Vegas and Denver, the only undefeated teams left in the AFC. And then a handful of teams at 2-1, including Buffalo, Tennessee, the Go Chargers go. Yes, nice to see you. It's fantastic. The Los Angeles Chargers team to be reckoned with this year. Yes, hi, how are you, Michael Regai? Thank you for letting me stop by your podcast. So the Chargers are 2-1. Baltimore 2-1, Cincinnati 2-1, and then of course the Cleveland Browns at 2-1.
How about Chucky? How about Chucky Gruden? His Raiders, man. 2 of the 3 wins are in overtime. I mean, right. Can this last for them?
I don't think it can, but hey, anything happens in Vegas, right? So why not? And it was funny. I saw Frank Caliendo, the great impersonator, right?
Was he doing Chucky in Vegas?
He had the wig on. He had the visor on.
Nice.
He had this like oversized Super Bowl ring that was about the size of a cookie jar or whatever on his finger, right? And he's flashing that, and he's playing the schedule game, Reg, right? Doing Chucky.
Nice.
And he's going. Win, buy, win. And I literally was crying. I was laughing so hard because Frank's got his facial expressions down, his hand gestures, and the voice is just, I'll tell you what,
that's good.
It's
real good.
So he had them going 17 and look for it on Twitter now, because after their win today, they're 3-0, so it's still alive. It's still a possibility.
They're on course, aren't they?
Win. Yeah. So it's
every
great
time a Raider. Did you see? There must have been 15 shots of the Raiders owner. The son of with his Prince Valiant haircut with his bangs, right? Looking like he's from the 1970s or something, man.
The Dumb and Dumber haircut, as I like to call it. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a chance. Well, yeah. Whatever. But all right, Reg, this is always a lot of fun. Thanks to our producer, Dave Emmert, and everybody at the Press Play Podcast Network. We'll be back midweek talking some Browns, maybe some Cavs, maybe some Indians. We're working on a couple of guests we're trying to, track down. And we didn't forget about you trick bag punks. We'll do some more bumping and running with Reg and Rhoda here in the not too distant future. So stay tuned for that as well. Great job, Reg. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bud?
You too, Kenny. Always fun, man.